Brava, Malignant. It's a Giallo. What up, party peoples? Bobo here with BrassReel Brothers. Thanks for coming back for some more popcorn. Well, man, I just got done watching Malignant, the new James Wan horror film on HBO Max and in theaters. Man, I loved this. This was badass, and it was exactly what I was wanting and exactly what I was expecting. So this is actually a part of the whole Year of the Max. And I'd missed a few movies like Reminiscent and Space Jam and like a couple other, but honestly, they just weren't all that great. I didn't feel like talking about them. So I might do like a cumulative review on those. But James Wan's Malignant was badass. When he first advertised this movie, he said that this was his Giallo film. This was his attempt at Giallo. And if you watch my channel and you watch my reviews, you know that I love Giallo films. And Giallo films are a specific genre of horror that are all Italian films. But over the years, they've become a style that other people that aren't Italian try to emulate. But at its core, and originally, it was Italian horror. And the thing with Giallo films is it's always some sort of supernatural element along with like a slasher element. It's usually a lead female involved, but beyond those three key ingredients, it always has heavy use of colors, and it just gets you tripped out most of the time. It doesn't necessarily feel like it exists within our reality, but it is. Look, if you haven't seen Giallo style films before, I really do encourage you to check them out. My biggest one that I recommend is Tenebrae. But this movie checked all those Giallo boxes while being a James Wan film. And I think James Wan is a great filmmaker. Some of his stuff is kind of just okay, but a lot of his stuff is badass, and I think he's pretty groundbreaking, and he's willing to take chances. He started out more of as a horror director, but then he's kind of tapped his way into action a little bit. This movie is a horror film and it is a Giallo film, but it does have some action sequence moments that are really well done. Another thing Giallo films do is rely heavily on the music, and this one totally did that throughout. I loved it, and I really can't explain it until you just see a Giallo film, and then you see this movie and you're like, okay, I see it. But the kills are badass, it is a slasher, the killer's badass, and they make a big deal out of him. They almost treat it like it's a superhero. And just like every other review I do like this, I'm not gonna give any spoilers or anything. I'm just gonna tell you what I thought about it and why I think you should see it. First off, I just gotta say, Gabriel. They do this really cool thing where they're incorporating this thing with this imaginary character, but that's from the trailer, you've seen that. There's way more to the story than that though, and it's not just a rehash of another James Wan film with some sort of like creepy character walking in the dark. Yeah, that's in this movie, but it's very well explained on why it's happening and why the character even walks that way. Like, I've never seen any of these creepy movies like this, like The Ring or The Grudge or any of that stuff, Conjuring even, where they're walking all weird and all distorted. It just seems like a gimmick to scare you, but in this one, they actually have a reason why that goes on that way, and it works. Not only are Giallo films usually a really intriguing story on top of being slashers with great kills and visually stunning, they usually try to do things that other directors aren't doing with the camera. They're very experimental with the camera in Giallo films, and James Wan did that in this movie. It's really entertaining to watch the camera shots. It does this really cool sequence where they film this entire house from an aerial shot while this woman's running around, going room to room, and you can tell they really built this house with like an open roof and put a camera on some sort of rig and just moved in between. It was really badass, and I hadn't seen that before, on top of a lot of other shots in this movie. I mean, honestly, between this and the first Saw, I think this is his two best films he's ever done. I like this better than The Conjuring for sure. I'm not gonna get too much into the plot, but it sort of involves this like imaginary character type situation that's vaguely addressed, but it starts to come in later. And in other movies, they've done that a lot, but this one, it makes more sense the reason it's happening and how it's happening and why it's happening. I say makes sense. It is a supernatural movie that's fictional fantasy horror. And if you've seen Giallo films before, religion and things like that do exist on a little bit more of a higher plane in these films. And that's tinkered with in this. Literally, everything that a Giallo has to offer, James Wan just did it to its finest in this movie. But let me get back to the killer. The killer's awesome, the way they just beef up this killer. They beef up and focus really on the origin stories. There's like these kill prep montage scenes where the killer's putting on the outfit and everything like that, where you're like rooting for the killer. Typical Giallo style thing to do. I mean, even the look of the police station, the outside of all the homes, the houses, everything, the abundance of fog that's just everywhere in this movie. No fog really exists like that anywhere in real life, but it's awesome in this movie. Lots of blues and reds throughout the film. I thought it was badass. I really enjoyed this movie. Very satisfied. The ending is the one thing that might make or break it for some people. I really like the ending of it, but That's because I like a lot of Giallo films. It was very original though. Moments in the end it gets a little cheesy and gushy at certain parts where I'm just like, alright, I could have done without the love thing again. But overall, loved it. I give Malignant an A. Go to the theater, guys, if you can to see it. If not, check it out on HBO Max. Well, that'll do it for this review. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Also, look for my show Monday through Thursdays, BrassReel Tonight at 1 p.m. Central Time, where I do nothing but talk about all news about movie things coming out on the big screen, everything coming out at home to stream, and all the shenanigans going on behind the scenes. Look for BrassReel Brothers on Facebook. Look for Bobby Williams on Facebook. And look for BrassReel Brothers on Twitter. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button so you can help us make it to the top. And as always, if life gives you lemons, make some hot, fresh popcorns.
He's the devil.